Coming back, this is actually part of the word that I was releasing a little while ago. Um, I don't know when this is gonna come up, and I know that I broke that word into pieces. So this is almost like a third part. You probably don't even know which word I'm talking about. It's all right. We gonna figure it out. All right. So in this, some of these counterfeits, they were trying to follow something that they did not belong in. There was a level of astringent rules, but they could not follow them. No, because they can't handle the seat, couldn't handle the seat they were put in for 5 minutes because it didn't belong to you or to them. What I'm trying to say. So they tried to operate in it on a daily basis, but they were doing it for Satan. They wanted that position because of the fact that they didn't need to be held accountable. And your spouse wanted them in that position for a season because they knew that they would not be held accountable. Meaning, if they were with you, you were going to always identify the issue that they needed to fix. Until they were ready to fix those problems, they knew they couldn't come to you. They didn't want that accountability. They didn't want their responsibility in that season. And the counterfeit allowed them to comfortably do that and not grow. But your spouse wasn't comfortable being in that because God was tapping him and pulling him. You supposed to take responsibility for yourself. You're supposed to take responsibility for your life, this, that, and the other. But the individual that was in this position was jealous and envious and did not want to be removed. But they needed to be deposed from the seat that they were in because they couldn't handle the power. They were doing everything in their power and then were fighting with you for your seat. Okay? Again, and you can do better because it's your position, not theirs. If it's not yours, you can't have it. It was not theirs, so they could not handle it. They could not pull the sword from the stone. Remember when I did the movie review, I talked about the sword that he had? And I need to see Excalibur. I think that's the name of the movie. I need to watch that movie. I haven't seen it. I saw the cartoon version of it. I loved the cartoon when I was a kid. But I need to see the actual film version. I haven't seen it yet. You know your lane and you walk in it. Don't try to become something that you're not, or because you need to walk in your lane and run in your lane. That is how you're going to be able to gain momentum in this season. God's going to give you back the time that you lost because these people were messing around with your time, but God is the one that can change it in the snap of a finger. Restoration can happen in a snap of a finger. That quick. A lot of times we are freaking out because we think we see delay. But God allowed those things because of the fact He wanted to show you that in the end, He's still in control because He can give you back the time that they wasted. I was listening to my coach. She made a point of saying the other day that the time that you lost, God's going to give you back years in months, months in days, or shall I say months in weeks, and weeks in days. He's about to accelerate time. You will get more done in a shorter period of time than you ever have, because God's got to make up for the time that fool was sitting in your spot. I'm sorry. A lot of us can agree. It was frustrating to observe foolery and to know foolery was sitting in our places when we were getting held up. Frustrating. But the Lord allowed you to stay in that frustrated place because he needs to work some stuff out of you. So it wasn't a wasted period of time. He was working some stuff out of you too. And your spouse. It's all a growing process. Their demotion is your promotion. Because this is meant to be a holy matrimony. Enemies come after you so hard because there is an enemy that is coming against the woman. If you recall, I'm not going to repeat it again. It was in the witch hunter review I just did recently that I talked about Revelations 12 and how the serpent was after the woman. She'd come out, the serpent attacked. She can't go back in, the serpent attacked when she come back out. Tried to drown her the last time. When it didn't work, what happened? It went after her children. Okay? So, with that being said, they desire to corrupt, taunt, and destroy you. So, they want to lure you into sin, but if they can't lure you into sin, they look for the weaker party, and 9 times out of 10, that's your husband. Yeah. Because he's not as spiritually aware, they can lure him a little bit easier. That's why you as the spouse have to be his eyes and ears. Now, he can spiritually hear in some cases, and you can spiritually see. But you do have spiritual gifts. His may be stronger in certain seasons. Yours might be stronger in certain seasons. Some of you can hear and they can see. You pray that whichever gift that they have, the opposite gift they don't. Meaning if you can see, you pray that they get the eyes to see. If they can hear, you pray over your hearing if you can't hear that well. There's a lot of people be like, I'm not hearing God. God is talking all the time. Are you looking in the right places? You see, sometimes you need to be hearing with your eyes. Who did the word on that? Apostle Youngblood did the word on that. That if by the time you see it, it's too late. Anyway. If a person is not able to see or understand what's going on, the people operating around them are going to do 2 things that God hates. 1, plot deceitfully wicked schemes against your spouse. We've seen that. Lie and breed conflict amongst community. Accusation is a veil of things, lies, and things covering up the truth of the good that is in the midst of it. God made sure I did all this today because he gave me the understanding today that the thing that's truly been the delay is accusation. Okay, I get you. Lies and plots and schemes amongst the community around your spouse. There was a level of wisdom and humility that your spouse had to take that you gave them by praying, but in the understanding, they had to learn to pray for their enemies, and you had to learn to pray for their enemies and your enemies as well. Because anybody coming against your spouse is an enemy to you too. Now, your elevation will come with it, and no longer in that moment should you ever take things personal. The thing that I have learned in walking with God is that as you walk through certain experiences and situations and scenarios, you're going to run into people that are going to slander. They're going to talk about you. They're going to talk about your spouse. And the more clout your spouse got, And the more clout you two get together, guess what? They're going to be talking about you. They're going to be women after your man. They're going to be men after you if you didn't realize it. Especially once, some of them are after you now, but some of them going to be really after you once you get your come up together. And start looking real good up there in places that God's about to take you. You must be humble enough to allow God to fight those battles once you get there. Because these people, you must recognize it's not the people, it's a spirit or several spirits working behind the individual. Don't take it for what you see, take it for what's being done spiritually through them. Delay was not a denial. We just talked about Ecclesiastes 3 and 11. And we talked about, what's the other one? I actually think the one I'm thinking about is 2 Peter 3:12 through 13. Okay? Where it talks about God allowed for the delay so that there would be a level of fruit out of it. It's not always the enemy causing your delays. God needed you to grow in this season because he was putting some other assignments in place. And he also needed things to happen in certain ways to give your spouse wisdom, understanding, and help them break certain cycles. Witch Hunter Review. For God was setting you up to prepare you to walk into that next level, because you could not go into that level if you did not have the character development necessary to walk in. I'm being reminded of the scene in Cinderella when Cinderella was brought to the ball location. Whitney Houston, who played her fairy godmother, said what to her? I brought you as far as I can take you. The rest is on you. She said, you're not coming in with me? No. Some of this you're going to have to do by yourself. God gave you the tools, the skills, and the capability to be able to learn how to do this stuff in your wilderness. But when you go onto that field, when he takes you in, he's not leaving you. He's going to allot you to use the skills he gave you once you get into that place. You've all heard the saying that, how's it go? I always get tongue twisted when it comes to this. That you have to have the ability and the skill. For where your skills take you, you got to still be able to have the character to be able to remain there. I didn't say it the way that the quote is said, but you understand what I'm saying. You had to be prepared for this. Because you had to be able to take where you were being, because I'm trying to remember what's happening is I'm trying to remember. I'm partially hearing it, but I'm not hearing everything that I want to hear. You have to be able to be prepared for that and to carry that. How do you handle that frustration? How do you handle that delay? Because you cannot get mad at God in the moments in which you were delayed. It was a preparation. God prepares you and then he presents you. A lot of this was last minute preparation. And when God was ready for it, all your enemies were doing was holding place. When God removes them literally, he's going to put you in. He let them stay there until he was ready to put you into that place. Then he gives them grounds to move. You have to be aware of any places that you may have been hurt and have dealt with personal sins. In that time, you were supposed to clear those things up, deal with your convictions, make sure that God circumcised your heart so that you are right in the right place. So when your haters come at you, because they're going to come at you, because they are just being swayed by the wind. Whichever person is saying whichever and whatever, they're going to listen to it. You have to have real people. My deepest prayer is God sends me the real ones. One of the ministers I follow, he says it this way. He says, how does he put it? I'm trying to figure out how he says it. He says, please give them the eyes to see the truth, or something like that, of who he is, pretty much. And when you get into these places and people are starting to talk about you, make issues about you, understand that they're speaking from the fact that they don't know or understand. But you have to take the higher ground. Dr. Jolyn Whitaker literally did a 3-hour teaching on taking the high road. You cannot come down to their level. There's another word she did that talks about 3 attacks that people do when you're elevating. And one of them is the scripture talking about Sanballat and Tobiah during the time Nehemiah was building the wall, trying to get him to come down from off the wall to come deal with their foolishness. You never come down from the high place. Okay? And people are going to look at you and yell at you while you at the high place saying, you too sedity, you too this, you're which would it be, because of the fact that you're not going to come down or defend yourself. It's goading. It's distraction. Don't get caught up in it. Because God is a God that will trick your enemies. It's funny. I was looking at a blog post that I wrote the other day, and the title literally was, God's going to be the trick to your tricksters. And it's funny. I'm actually recording this on Halloween. So that's a little inside joke, I guess God's trying to say. Because see, he needs to show your enemies that they think that they won. Remember in the scripture when the people toiled all night and dug the trenches. They were told to dig the trenches, and God told them that if they dug the trenches, there would be water in them. But their enemies the next morning, when the water was in the trenches, all they saw by the glow of the orange sun on the water looked like blood. God will trick your enemies in order for them to weaken their positions, which will allot you the ability to do a sneak attack and take them out. But more than likely, he's going to do the sneak attacking. Remember, he's going to trick the trickster. So with that being said, he loves even your enemies. A lot of the cases where you were delayed, God was trying to give your enemies time to come back to them. He was trying to get the hell out of them. But see, in that time, they chose not to stop attacking. You, on the opposite side, needed to pray for them. I can't tell you how many times, God, could you make them stop? God, could you do me the favor of showing them what your wrath is going to be if they don't stop doing what they're doing to me? Please stop them. God, can you stop them? I'm not begging because I'm whining. I can see that your wrath will be very detrimental to them. God kept showing me 933 is 2 Kings 9 and 33, where Vashti died. not Vashti, Jezebel died. Thrown out the window, over the canyon, trampled to death. Only her head and her hands were left after the dogs ate her. It's like, can you please show them what they're about to get into? If they do not, please repent. Please renounce. Please uproot what you tried to do. Matter of fact, I got confirmation through one of the videos that said they actually listened. They uprooted whatever the plot was that they had against you. They dug it up. I was like, oh, thank you. Because God must have shown that particular person. Stop playing with me. Anyway, it's like God tried to give them chance after chance, but some of them, they were just tormented by a spirit of torment and they kept going. That's why you had to keep praying for them and praying for them and praying for them over and over and over. Next, you have to have the understanding of the fact that Jesus is Jesus. Your husband is not Jesus. Are you looking for your husband to appear in such a way that is godly, like Jesus? God will speak through your spouse. God will give them a level of spiritual wisdom for you when they come into your life that you will just look at that man in awe and like, how did you know that? Oh my God, I was praying to God about that. Oh my God, what in the world? You'll be like, oh my God. But don't make them your God, because they're going to show themselves to be human. They will. Yes, God will speak through them. But you have to have the spiritual fortitude to understand they ain't Jesus. They ain't Jesus. A lot of people, and I've seen people come up and make comments at particular points in time. He's like, well, no, God's not going to make my husband, blah, 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 blah. God will have you listen to that man because there's something that he needs to speak through him. And if you're not listening to them, what I've noticed in a lot of these cases that I've been seeing, I was doing a reading on, remember the Love and Respect book that I read? A lot of the cases in Love and Respect, the wife was not listening to the wisdom of the husband. God needs for you to be able to submit to your husband because there's instructions your spouse is getting from him for you. You need to be able to listen to that man. Not all the time will he be right. Because of the fact of the matter, he's still him, meaning he's still a human being that is capable of faults and mistakes. So he's going to have moments. He ain't God 24/7. God's going to use him to speak just like any other person he uses to speak. And not all the time will that advice be right because of the fact that he's still speaking as himself at times. Don't make him the end all be all. He is not God fully in the embodiment of God, meaning God ain't walking in that man's body 24/7. God takes moments. God knows you've been praying, so the next time you run into your spouse, maybe your spouse gives you the answer from the thing that you just prayed about to God a few minutes ago. But he's not going to be 24/7, 365 Jesus. He's going to have moments where Jesus is speaking to him, Lord is speaking to him, and he's hearing what's said, and he's going to repeat it back to you. Yes, but that man ain't God all day. That man's still the man that he always was before he came to God. He's just learning how to walk with him, okay? So you have to recognize that, because guess what? You make that man your idol. What did I say in the other word? The thing that you make into an idol will make you into its slave. You don't want that. You do not want that. So be careful, because God is a jealous God. And you will start to see confusion, anger, and frustration pop up in your relationship. And if you start seeing that, that means you was paying way too much attention to your spouse instead of paying attention to God. There needs to be an even alignment. Remember, it's you, God, your spouse. 3-strand cord. God's the strand that's in the middle of you. You put too much on your spouse and leave God out of it, God's going to let you fall on your face a few times. Okay? So, with that being said, there are people that are going to see you when God brings you and your spouse to where he's choosing to take you in your life, and it's going to be a quick move. I'm not going to share what the Lord showed me about my spouse, but the move that he's going to make is going to make it capable that there's going to be a shift. And in that shift, people will look at you and they are going to judge you for where God is putting the both of you, because they're going to think, well, why would he do that? For what reason would he do that? God, you must have did something and this, that, and the other, and oh, she slept her way, and oh, they did that and the other, and you the good one. You the one. They ain't say that to the other people. They gonna say that to you. Why? Because they jealous, because they don't understand that God can do this, but they need to see it. I have been seeing the number, I believe it's 1110, which means an acknowledgement and or public witness by in front of or with someone that is a notable figure. Meaning God's going to place some of y'all into association with people that people are going to be like, that's a notable person. Why are you with them? Whether it be business dealings, opportunities, relationship, friendship, whatever it is. He's going to position you with associations that they're going to be like, you must have did something to get that, because I don't understand how you got with that person. So you have to have that full understanding. And I got another word, but I'm going to give that on another word. So I'm going to be back because I think I've run out of space here. Hold on. Be back.